Your uncle is also a saint. She was devoted to the Holy Eucharist and founded the Congregation of the Mantle. Today's curiosities are about Saint Juliana Falconieri. Here are 10 curiosities about her. 10. Noble family. Saint Juliana Falconieri was born into a noble and influential family in Florence, the Falconieri. This dynasty was known for its wealth and power, playing a significant role in Florentine society. The Falconieri family was deeply rooted in the city's traditions and culture, contributing to its development and maintaining its political and social influence. From a young age, Juliana was educated in a privileged environment, receiving an education that combined Christian values with the noble traditions of her family. The Falconieri's wealth allowed her to access religious and intellectual formation that prepared her for her future vocation. Despite the luxury and opportunities offered by her social position, Juliana chose a path of humility and service to God, influenced by her uncle, Saint Alexis Falconieri, one of the 7 founders of the Order of the Servants of Mary. Juliana's decision to pursue religious life was a reflection of her deep faith and her determination to use her position and resources for the well-being of others. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now so you don't miss any curiosities about the saints. 9. Holy Uncle. Saint Juliana Falconieri had a special connection with holiness from birth, being the niece of Saint Alexis Falconieri. Alexius was one of the 7 founders of the Order of the Servants of Mary, also known as the Servites. This family connection played a crucial role in Juliana's spiritual formation and religious vocation. Saint Alexis Falconieri, along with his companions, founded the Order of the Servants of Mary in 1233. They were successful merchants from Florence who decided to dedicate their lives to prayer, penance, and service to the Virgin Mary. The order was established in a context of profound Marian devotion, focusing on contemplating the sufferings of Mary at the foot of the cross. Growing up in a deeply religious and inspiring environment, Juliana was strongly influenced by her uncle's example. Alexius's holiness and his commitment to a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience served as a model for Juliana. He taught her about the importance of devotion to the Virgin Mary and service to the poor and needy, values she incorporated into her own religious life. Alexis Falconieri's presence in her life gave Juliana a direct insight into what it meant to live a life dedicated to God. His influence was decisive in Juliana's decision to follow the religious path. At the age of 15, she made a vow of chastity and, inspired by her uncle's spirit of devotion, joined the Order of the Servants of Mary, a female branch of the Servites. Alexius's example not only inspired Juliana to enter religious life but also to found the Congregation of the Servants of Mary, along with other devout women. Through this congregation, Juliana was able to perpetuate her uncle's legacy, promoting Marian devotion and service to the needy, fundamental aspects of Servite spirituality. 8. Vow of Chastity. At the age of 15, Saint Juliana Falconieri made a decision that would define the course of her life. She took a vow of chastity. This deep and solemn commitment was a reflection of her dedication and devotion to God. Juliana chose to renounce marriage and conventional family life to fully dedicate herself to spiritual life and service to others. Juliana's decision to take the vow of chastity was not impulsive but a mature and thoughtful choice, inspired by her fervent faith and the examples of holiness around her, especially that of her uncle, Saint Alexis Falconieri. This vow marked the beginning of her religious journey and her entry into the Order of the Servants of Mary, a female branch of the Order of the Servants of Mary. Joining the Order of the Servants of Mary was a natural extension of her commitment to chastity and religious life. The Servants of Mary, also known as Mantle due to the habit they wore, dedicated themselves to prayer, penance, and service to the poor and sick. By joining this order, Juliana aligned herself with other women who shared her vision of a life of humility and service. Juliana's vow of chastity was more than a renunciation of worldly pleasures, it was an affirmation of her total dedication to God. This commitment allowed her to live a life of spiritual freedom, focused on prayer, meditation, and acts of charity. Juliana believed that by maintaining chastity, she could better serve God and the community, keeping her heart and mind purified and devoted to divine love. During her life in the order, Juliana not only led a life of chastity but also stood out for her leadership and sanctity. She played a crucial role in founding the Congregation of the Servants of Mary, helping to establish a community that combined contemplative life with active service to the needy. Leave your prayer requests in the comments so that Saint Juliana Falconieri may intercede for them before God. 7. Founder of the Congregation. Saint Juliana Falconieri, along with some friends, founded the Congregation of the Servants of Mary, a religious community dedicated to prayer, penance, and service to the needy. Known as the Mantle due to the habit they wore, the sisters of this congregation adopted a simple and devout lifestyle, inspired by the Order of the Servants of Mary. The foundation of the Congregation of the Servants of Mary took place in a context of profound Marian devotion and a desire for community service. Juliana and her companions, motivated by the example of the founders of the Servites, including her uncle Saint Alexis Falconieri, sought to create a female community that could live and promote the same ideals of humility, charity, and devotion to the Virgin Mary. In 1304, the congregation received official approval, which allowed the sisters to expand their activities and establish themselves formally within the Church. The approval also recognized the importance of their work and the validity of their spiritual mission. The Mantle wore a simple and austere habit, characterized by the black cloak covering their heads and bodies, symbolizing their renunciation of worldly vanities and their total dedication to God. Under Juliana's leadership, the congregation grew and became a model of feminine religious life. The servants of Mary dedicated themselves to continuous prayer, meditation on the sufferings of Christ and Mary, and attending to the poor and sick. The communal life of the sisters was marked by a profound sense of solidarity and mutual support, reflecting the values of compassion and service that Juliana promoted. The foundation of the Congregation of the Servants of Mary also had a significant impact on Florentine society. The sisters were known for their efforts in reducing conflicts and promoting peace in a time marked by rivalries and vendettas. Their example of humility and charity inspired many to seek a life of greater spirituality and service to others. Thanks to the vision and leadership of Saint Juliana Falconieri, the Congregation of the Servants of Mary continues to exist today, perpetuating the mission of Marian devotion and community service initiated by her. Juliana is remembered not only as a founder but as a true spiritual mother to all the sisters who have followed in her footsteps over the centuries. 6. Rigorously penitential practices. Saint Juliana Falconieri was known for her rigorous penitential practices, demonstrating her deep devotion and desire to unite with the sufferings of Christ. From a young age, Juliana adopted an austere lifestyle, marked by fasting and bodily mortifications, as a form of spiritual purification and solidarity with the poor and suffering. One of Juliana's penitential practices included sleeping on the hard floor, rejecting the comfort of a soft bed. This act of bodily mortification was a symbol of her humility and her willingness to share in the hardships of the less fortunate. Sleeping on the floor also reflected her imitation of the saints who preceded her, many of whom practiced similar acts of self-denial. In addition to sleeping on the floor, Juliana frequently subjected herself to rigorous fasting. On certain days of the week, she would eat only bread and water, abstaining from other foods. This fasting was not only a practice of physical discipline but also a means of strengthening her spirituality and focusing her mind and heart on God. Fasting was seen as a form of penance that helped control bodily desires and increase spiritual sensitivity. Juliana also practiced other forms of mortification, such as the use of hair shirts and other physical disciplines. These practices were common among the saints and mystics of her time and were considered forms of atonement for sins, both personal and others. Juliana viewed these mortifications as ways to more closely unite with the sufferings of Christ, offering her own discomforts and pains as a sacrifice of love and devotion. Juliana Falconieri's penances were not merely external acts. They reflected a profound inner spirituality and a desire to conform to God's will in all aspects of her life. Her ascetic practices also served as a powerful witness to her sisters in the Congregation of the Servants of Mary, inspiring them to seek a life of greater holiness and devotion. Despite the rigorous penances she practiced, Juliana was known for her joy and serenity. She believed that suffering, when offered to God with love and humility, could be transformative and redemptive. Her life of penance and mortification, far from being a burden, was seen as a path to true spiritual freedom and union with Christ. 5. Miracle of the Host. The miracle of the host is one of the most notable and revered episodes in the life of Saint Juliana Falconieri, demonstrating her deep faith and devotion to the Eucharist. Shortly before her death, Juliana was gravely ill, suffering from a stomach condition that prevented her from ingesting food, including the Holy Communion. Aware of her terminal condition and desiring to receive the Eucharist, Juliana made an extraordinary request. She asked that a consecrated host be placed on her chest, as she could not swallow the communion. This request was a reflection of her ardent devotion and desire to be in communion with Christ, even in her final moments. The priest granted Juliana's request and placed the host on a cloth and then on her chest. Moments later, the host mysteriously disappeared. When Juliana passed away, those present witnessed a miraculous phenomenon. A purple stain, in the shape of a cross, appeared on her chest, representing the image of the crucified Christ. This sign was interpreted as a miracle, indicating that Christ had responded to Juliana's deep desire to receive the Eucharist, uniting with her in an extraordinary way. The miracle of the host became a powerful testimony to Saint Juliana Falconieri's unwavering faith and her intense devotion to the Blessed Sacrament. This event not only consoled those by her side at the moment of her death but also inspired many others to value the Eucharist even more as the true body of Christ, present and active in the lives of the faithful. The story of the miracle of the host is celebrated by the Church and devotees of Saint Juliana as an example of the deep love and real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. It also serves as a reminder of Juliana's holiness and her total dedication to God, even in the face of death. This miracle significantly contributed to the veneration of Saint Juliana Falconieri, highlighting her as an exemplary figure of faith and Eucharistic devotion. 4. Physical suffering. In the final years of her life, Saint Juliana Falconieri faced intense physical suffering due to severe stomach problems that prevented her from eating normally. This debilitating condition not only affected her physical health but also significantly increased her suffering, becoming an additional test of her faith and dedication to God. Juliana, known for her rigorous penitential practices and fasting, found herself in a situation where she could no longer choose when or how to fast, as her stomach condition forced her to go long periods without consuming solid food. This involuntary suffering became an even deeper form of penance and an opportunity for her to unite more intimately with the sufferings of Christ. Despite the pain and physical limitations imposed by her illness, Juliana maintained an attitude of serenity and acceptance. She viewed her suffering as a participation in the mystery of the cross and as an opportunity to offer her pains in union with Christ's sacrifice for the salvation of souls. Her physical condition did not diminish her faith, rather, it strengthened her devotion and total dependence on divine grace. During this period of intense pain, Juliana continued to fulfill her role as a leader in the Congregation of the Servants of Mary, inspiring her sisters with her example of patience and resignation. She never allowed her physical suffering to interfere with her spiritual life or commitment to the community. Juliana transformed her illness into a source of spiritual strength, showing that true holiness involves the loving and trusting acceptance of God's will, even in the most difficult circumstances. 3. Canonization. Saint Juliana Falconieri was canonized by Pope Clement XII in 1737, formally recognizing her life of virtue, holiness, and service to the Church. Juliana Falconieri's canonization was the culmination of centuries of veneration and popular devotion. Since her death in 1341, Juliana had been revered for her holiness, miracles, and her example of a life dedicated to prayer, penance, and service to the needy. The fame of her sanctity spread quickly after her death, and many miracles were attributed to her intercession. The canonization process involved a detailed investigation of her life, virtues, and miracles. The Church examined testimonies from people who had known Juliana and reports of miracles that occurred through her intercession. This investigation culminated in her canonization on June 16, 1737, when Pope Clement XII officially declared Juliana Falconieri a saint. Saint Juliana Falconieri is especially celebrated for founding the Congregation of the Servants of Mary and for her Eucharistic devotion, exemplified by the miracle of the host. Her life of dedication and sacrifice, marked by rigorous penances and a profound love for God and neighbor, served as a model of holiness for many. The body of Saint Juliana rests in the Basilica of the Most Holy Annunciation in Florence, a place of great importance for the Order of the Servants of Mary. This basilica is a pilgrimage site for those seeking to honor the saint and request her intercession. 2. Saint of the Eucharist. Saint Juliana Falconieri is widely recognized and venerated as the Saint of the Eucharist, a title that reflects her profound devotion to the Most Holy Sacrament and the remarkable miracle associated with the host on her chest. This title not only highlights one of the most significant aspects of her spirituality but also establishes her as an inspiring figure for all who value the Eucharist as the heart of Christian life. Juliana's devotion to the Eucharist was evident not only in this miracle but throughout her life. As the founder of the Congregation of the Servants of Mary, she instilled in her sisters a deep respect and love for the Most Holy Sacrament. The practice of Eucharistic adoration and frequent participation in the Mass were central to the spiritual life of the servants, the sisters of the congregation. The veneration of Juliana as the Saint of the Eucharist underscores the importance of the Eucharist in Christian life and the conviction that, through this sacrament, the faithful can experience the real presence of Christ. Juliana Falconieri, with her life of dedication and her deep love for the Eucharist, offers a powerful example of how faith and devotion can transform and sanctify everyday life. 1. Influence on society. Saint Juliana Falconieri, founder of the Mantelate nuns, had a profound impact on the society of Florence during the 13th century. Known for their acts of charity and dedication to religious life, Juliana and her companions were essential in promoting peace and reconciliation in a city marked by conflict and tension. At that time, Florence was a place where political disputes and family rivalries frequently fueled a climate of revenge and hatred. The Mantelate nuns, through their activities and example of life, played a crucial role in easing these animosities. They were called Semiadoras de Concordia, sewers of concord, due to their ongoing efforts to promote harmony among the citizens. These dedicated women not only helped the needy but were also known for their mediation and support during times of crisis. Their presence and influence contributed to reducing tensions in the city, fostering an environment of greater understanding and cooperation. The legacy of Saint Juliana Falconieri, therefore, is not limited to founding a congregation but extends to the lasting impact she had on her community, helping to transform Florence into a more peaceful and united place. Her life and work continue to inspire examples of reconciliation and commitment to social peace. We've reached the end of another story full of curiosities. Don't forget to leave a comment with the saints you'd like to see featured on the channel. See you in the next story.